Yeah, a very good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 11 of Hyperautomation Free UiPath training. So the concept which we are gonna discuss today is something related to database. So please do prepare the sessions, whatever we have just gone through till today. If you have any queries, please do let us know. We are just open for the discussions on the same. Right. So till now we have discussed something related to basics of RPA lifecycle, UiPath basics, how the user interface looks like, concepts related to variables, arguments, string operations, input output methods, select tasks, and also we have just discussed something related to uh, Excel automation. Uh, we have discussed about modern design experience versus classic design experience and all, how you can extract the tables uh, using the table extraction methods. We have gone through also the recorders, how you can utilize app or web recorder to just generate some skeleton out of it, all these things, right? So all these concepts definitely lays a foundation for what we are going to build going forward. Or else like in real time also all these concepts will definitely help us in just laying a strong foundation for us, right? Fine. Now let's jump into our topic. Let me just share the screen. Confirm if my screen is visible and my voice is audible. Can anyone just confirm my screen is visible?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Right. So now we are just talking something about challenge, right? So there's a challenge we had. We'll also post it in the chat window. So once you complete the chat, you can just give us some support by just tagging us. Or it's like you can
Again, you
just
are speaking. We're not able to hear you.
sorry. Yeah. So after just completing the task of your challenge, just comment on the particular chat window, which will help us in supporting the program what we are just going through. Yep, that's fine. And let's jump into concept. Okay, let's Shweta, can you just stop your video, please? Disable camera. Yeah. So do I have any settings to just disable settings options? Yeah. I'll just disable the video. Yeah, that's great. Fine. Let's jump into our concept of database, right? So let me just go through the database concept. So for this, we require the SQL Server. So let me just open this SQL Server. What I have basically. So when you're trying to interact with any sort of database, we need to make sure that either any SQL Server or else like Oracle Server or else like MongoDB. So these databases needs to be installed in our systems to make sure that we have a connection with the web path, right? Oh, this is my server name basically, which I was installed on my system. So let me just keep it somewhere, which will help me out. So this is my server details, right? So once we have the server details, I'll just click on connect. I'm just using the Windows authentication. where I'll be just able to connect with the particular database, right? So we had a connection of database here. So if I just expand on something called databases, we will have a system database that was there. We have master model, MSDB, Temple DB, and all, right? So I just want to connect with something called as a master database. Under master database, I just want to see if there are any sort of tables. Right? It will just take some time to get all the details. And just meanwhile, I'll just use my chat GPT to help me out with the queries. So queries to create a queries to create a database table with columns, first name, last name, and country, with update, insert, delete queries. Okay. So I'm just trying to create some small table here. So which is having this particular data, and I was just trying to add the values out of it, right? So let's see how we can just do all these things and whether we can able to leverage those things in our particular database, right? It's still loading like a new query. Let's see. We'll just use DB master. So query to use database. Okay, it's just use database, right? So we will try to use something called master. So we'll try to execute. Completion was done, and we're just trying to make sure that since we have multiple databases here, I'm just trying to connect with only the master database. So I'm trying to say that so out of these particular tables, I just want to see what is there in terms of DB persons, right? So to see the data, we have query like select star from database table name. So the database table name is persons basically, right? So let's try to execute and see what's the data that's been available here. So we have something called a person ID, the last name, the first name, address, and city. So let's see what is there in the test one. Test one. So yeah, so we have something called the last name, first name, and the city, right? So we have around like how many rows of data? So let's say that we have like 101 rows of data. So now my intention is to extract the data that was there in this particular database into Excel. Nothing but you are trying to export the data from a database to the Excel. And the second scenario we'll try to cover is something where you will try to import the data which is there in your Excel to the database. And we'll try to see some other queries related to uh, getting insert, update, and delete queries just being written on this particular table called test, right? So that is our intention here. So we'll just try to do this things. So for which I'll try to open the UiPath. In real time, what are the servers we have to connect? Basically, it depends upon your what I can say, um, requirement for the business, whether you're connecting with SQL, Oracle. So we'll see mostly a 50% or 60% will be SQL, but it really depends from business to business, which the organizations are trying to utilize. Okay. So I think the UiPath has opened. Yeah, I'll just create a small process here, which talks about database. So I'll just use VB C sharp and I'll just create a new process. Yes, we have our particular process created. Let's see if the database is installed. So I'll just search for database, which seems to be not installed. I'll try to just make sure that we have the package for the database activities. Yeah. So we have our particular things too for that is related to the database now. So let's try to create a flowchart which will talk about data export. Right. So first of all, to just make sure that we are having a connection with the database. So let's try to search for the database activities. So these were the things we have here in terms of connect to database, disconnect, insert, update, and delete queries and all, right? So first we'll try to see how to connect with the database. So we'll just try to double click. We need to make sure that we have these server details, which you can try to see when you're trying to connect, or else like you can also get it from here once you connect with the database, right? So let me just copy this particular data and just come back to configure connection. So in the connect to database, we'll try to double click and we'll just try to make sure we are trying to configure the connection here. Nothing but connecting to a particular database. So once you try to configure the connection, we will try to see here the connection wizard. Just try to click on it. And here provide the data source. Here, what are the types of databases you are trying to connect. So in my case, it was SQL Server. And we need to provide the server name here. So what is my server name? So which I already have here. So just hit on refresh. So once you hit on refresh, so in few seconds, you can also see what are the different databases that was available here in this particular SQL Server, right? So automatically it comes here. I'm just trying to connect with something called as master. In this particular SQL Server, we have something called database, and we will try to test the connection here. So if it is something called as green, nothing but you have successfully made a connection to a SQL Server from your UiPath. So we'll just try to click on OK. So if you can see here, so this is basically your connection string. Uh, like the data source is a SQL Server Express, and you're connecting with something called initial catalog, which is your database name, and you're trying to provide your security and the encryption as paths, right? So all these things will be automatically created for you once you select all the details from the connection wizard, right? So I'll try to just show it again, like how you can connect to the database. So I'll just simply drag and drop your connect to database activity where you're just trying to configure the connection. And in the configure connection, you have something called connection wizard. And here you will try to select the data source. And in this particular case, it was Microsoft SQL Server because my database is SQL Server. And I just need to provide the server name here. I have already extracted those details. It was the server name. So I'll click on refresh so that we will try to see the database is available for this particular server, right? So we have this particular databases where I'll try to just click on master because that is the database where my particular table resides, right? So we'll click on test connection. So which will be turning into green, which means that you have a successful connection. If it is red or gray, like it's something you have an issue where you need to provide a proper details for your connection, right? So I'll just click on OK. Right. So if you just go to the properties of connect to database, we can see the database connection here. So basically, like how you read the data from Excel and store in a data table. So you're storing your connection in a variable called DB connect. Okay. So if you just see the type of the variable here, it says it's a database connection type variable. Need not worry because whenever we are trying to use the properties and you try to create the variable, automatically it will try to create a variable of its particular type. Okay. Now, so we have made a connection, but I want to extract the data, right? So what is the activity we need to use? So we have something called run query. Uh, Run query, right? Yes. So we have something called run query where we need to provide the uh, SQL query for us. So in the run query, we need to provide the properties. Just go to the properties. So it will say whether you want to create a new connection or existing connection. I have already existing connection, which is called deep connect. Okay. And what is the query you want to write here? The same query we have written here for select star from test one, right? So we'll try to just extract the same data. So in the double quotes, you will try to keep the same query here. I'm trying to utilize the same query, which is nothing but select star from test one. Okay. So once you write a query, you connect to a database. It's nothing but you are extracting the data, right? So what you are extracting basically from the database. So this is the data you're trying to extract. This is the data you're trying to extract, right? This is the data. So we see here we have around like 100 rows of data. So let's see whether we are able to extract the same data. So control K, it's TT database. So now you have your data in your particular variable called TT database, right? You had a connection, you have extracted your data. So after extracting your data, I want to write it back to the Excel. So what I'll do, I'll use write range, okay, to make sure that I'm trying to write the data into my Excel. So where you want to write, I'll just create a file called db export dot xlsx. If I haven't provided the path, it will just create a file in the project folder. So what is the sheet name? I'll say like db1 DB test data. So what is the data table you want to write here? It's a DT database. Right. And we will try to make sure that we are also adding the headers to make sure that we are also getting the header data. Right. And it's every time a best practice after you have a connect with the database, you need to disconnect to the particular database. So it's disconnect from the database. Right. So disconnect from the database, how you will disconnect? You have already existing connection called DB connect, where you will try to pass the particular variant here. So it won't accept any other what I can say inputs. It's only what you have as an output of connect to database will be used for this existing connection and as a property for disconnecting from the database. Right. So this is our particular initial flow. If I just open in the project folder, do I have something called DB Excel file or DB database file? Of course not, where I've just asked the program to just create for me and write the data into it from DB test sheet name. Right. So let me just try to run the file here and see if I was able to write the data back into this particular Excel. Yeah. So you can see that it's been ended in 2 seconds, right? So it's very fast. Let's see. Whether we are able to just create the data or not. So I'll just open the file here. So we have something called DB export. Yes. So we have our data here, right? So we have like 100 rows of data, say 101 rows of data, right? The same data which we have here in the database. So we have 101 rows of data here, and same 10 rows of data was exported back to my particular Excel, right? So this is how we can just export the data from a database to your particular Excel. So any queries, let's see. How to recognize which is modern, which is classic activity. By default, it will be modern. Okay. If both are selected, then how to recognize? We can get the headers. Yes. How to connect to database? Connection link. How do we get this? This is unique, right? Yes. Uh, we have just seen that. Which version should I install? Here it's showing 1.82. Yeah, we can just install 1.82 preview. Even it works fine for us. If it's not working, we just need to downgrade our particular version. Is output of DB connection active access a session? Yes, it acts as a session. Better use without preview version. So preview versions are nothing but the beta versions and all. So where they'll try to just add some extra functionalities. So what is Microsoft Cloud BC data source? Where it will help us to connect with the Oracle database and different databases. To get the server link, we used AI. No, we haven't used AI. So just to write some queries to make it faster, I'm just utilized. What will the run query output data type? It is basically a data table where you're trying to run a query and you'll get the outcome as a data based table, right? So the table data is nothing but you will try to get your data stored in a data table. So can you please show the connection process again? Yes, we will show it once again. How to connect to database. Which one should I select here? If you have database, it should be showing the SQL Server. If it's not reflecting here, it means that you need to make sure that you have your connection or you need to update your package. So I'm getting an error in UiPath to post SQL connection. Can you please guide me? Yeah, we'll see it. Can you connect UiPath to any cloud like Azure, AWS, Next Stack? Yes, we can do that. I'm using 24 SQL Server Enterprise Edition. Yes, we can do that. So all the thing you just required is you need to have your server details. So this is my server details like laptop underscore AD JLLKU, right? So those details I've just kept in my chart view. I'm like just kept it somewhere else to just have my ease of use. So how can you connect to a database here? I'm just showing it once again since we have multiple queries on the same. So we'll just use connect to database, right? So if you just double click here, you have something called configure connection and you have something called connection set, right? You need to provide the data source. So in my case, I have all these details. If you're not having, you can just provide your SQL Server details here. So what this Oracle will try to do, it will try to connect with the Oracle database or Microsoft ODBC will also connect with Azure or something related to database and all, right? So in my case, it was like basically SQL Server, right? So once I just provide here, automatically it will try to select the data provider. So for me, it's data provider for SQL Server, and we just need to provide use the selection to connect to Microsoft SQL Server 2000 or above using .NET framework here. Descriptions for the data provider. I just need to provide the server name. So this is my server name. If I just refresh here, you can automatically see your database names in my particular connect to database. So if I just click on drop down, this is different databases. I just want to make sure that I'm connected to master DB and just click on test connection and click on OK. So this is basically called as constant string. Okay. You can get these details if you're working in an organization. They will try to provide this constant string and we can just directly pass it here in the constant string. Right. So if somebody is working in real time companies, so what they'll try to do is they'll try to directly provide you the constant string here. So this is the constant string, right? So they'll try to directly provide you the constant string. So no need to provide, go to the connection wizard, provide all the details. You can just simply copy paste this constant string here in my particular constant string, right? So provider name, it's basically this thing. These details is also being provided by the admin if you're working. So once you had a connect here, we can what we can do, we can just try to utilize a DB connect, which will act as a session for rest of your activities inside your particular workflow. Okay, right. So we have seen how to connect to database. We have utilized the run query to select star from a particular table name called as test1. After extracting, you have written back to the Excel and we are trying to disconnect to the database. Right. So this is how you can just try to make sure you're connecting to database and try to get the data. How to use Excel as a database? Yes, we will show you that. Kiran, can we connect multiple users with a single database for running the bots? Yes, we can do that. How to use Excel as database? We will try, I'll just share some links where you can just do that, Rohit. Yeah, we'll jump into our other scenarios where we'll try to run some other queries. So what I'll do, I'll just simply keep it aside for running our other queries. So I've just utilized for run query will help us in trying to utilize a select command, a select query. So whenever you're trying to use something called select, you try to go with run query, and we have something called run command where if we just hover on the particular activity, which will say executes an SQL statement on database for update, insert, and delete snippets. The return values number of rows affected by the command, right? It will just give you the count of the number of rows got affected. But if it is run query, your outcome is basically a data table. Okay, so that's the difference between the run query and the run command. Uh, right. So I want to have already an existing connection here. So which is basically DB connect. Right. So what do you want to do basically here? I'll just try to utilize some command called update. Right. So what I'll do is if the value is basically the city is basically Bangalore, I want to update all the first last name to basically like Sai UiPath. Okay, we have something called Sai 1, Sai 2, and something related to till Sai 99, right? But if it is Bangalore, I just want to update my particular value to last name as UiPath, right? So how you can do that? Update multiple records, update a single record, right? So we have a query here. Let's copy it. Let's keep it in the notepad, right? So we just want to write a query. So update person. So it's basically for us, it's table name is test one. So I'll just select test one. I'm sorry, it's test one. Test one here. So I want to set the city, right? So set last name. So this is my column name. This is my column name, last name. As let's say Sai UiPath to city where the city is basically Bangalore. Where city is basically Bangalore. Bangalore. Right. Right. So this is what I just want to execute. If I just execute this particular query, it will be still the same. It is still the same where you have values as Bangalore, you have Sai 1, right? So, but I want to execute this in UiPath and see what happens if I just do it. So we have our SQL command which needs to be given, and in the double quotes, I'll try to provide my SQL command. So update test one. So this is my table name where I'm trying to set my last name as UiPath where the city is Bangalore, right? So this is my query. So let's see how many efforts got affected. So that's basically int underscore records count got affected, right? We'll just try to keep it in a particular right line so that we can just see it in the output panel. So we can say affected records. Basically, your int records dot to string because you can combine both the strings, right? So this is my query. So as we are just saying, it's every time best practice to have a disconnect. Fine. So we had made a connection to database. We had run a command. The command was to just update a data in your test one where the city is Bangalore. You need to update last name as sign your path, right? So let's try to run the file. So it says that almost 99 records got affected, right? So it's very fast. Let me see here. It was still Bangalore and it was Sai 1 only. Now let's try to see by just executing this query what happens. See now. all the data, wherever you see something as Bangalore, you can see it's Sai UiPath, right? So it's all values got updated in this particular records, right? So that is what happens if you just simply utilize an update command. So let's see, I'll try to use a delete command now. So I just want to go with a delete command. So deleting data, so copy code. So same thing you need to do here. So you should be able to just customize your things based on your. So delete from test one, right, where the city or the last name is basically Sai Path. I just want to delete all the records. So where the last name is basically Sai Path, right? So almost you're trying to delete 99 records. Only data of like Sai and Toy2 will only be there. Apart from that, all the data will be deleted, right? So we'll try to just in the run command only, we'll try to update our query. So previous query we have what you can say update query, but now we'll try to go with the delete query. So it's in the double quotes. So delete from test one where the last name is Sai Path. So let's try to run the file. Right. So we see around like 99 records got affected. So let's jump into our particular SQL here. Table it. You have still 10 rows of data. Let's try to execute this query. Whether we see only 2 rows of data was available here, right? So that is how we can just utilize update, delete, and we can also utilize same insert command also, right? So let's copy the code. So we have first name, last name, and a city, right? So we have, let's say the last name, the first name, let's say we have city, right? I'll just keep the same values here basically. So I'll just try to use the same command to insert. So insert also works with the run command. Here I'm trying to just simply update my SQL command with the double quotes. So this is the data I just want to update. Okay. So let me just run the file. You can see that 3 records got affected. Nothing but 3 records got added. So let's jump to SQL query here. We have only 2 records here. Let's try to execute here where we can see 5 records been available. No, it's not updated. I think we have updated in persons, not in test one, right? I'll keep it in test one. Okay, let's run it again. So I just given a wrong table name. Right. So let's try to execute it and see if the records got updated. Yes, we have the records. So earlier I've just updated in persons rather than the test one table. Okay. So we're fine, right? So how we can just up like we have just seen how we can export the data from database to Excel. So now let's try to see how we can import the data from your Excel to database. So you have data in Excel. but you want to import that data to your particular Excel. How you can do that? Let's see that. Let's see if I have any queries as of now. Run query is data table. So can we connect multiple users? Yes. Okay, fine. The same queries we have here. Thanks, Narendra, for answering the queries in the chat window. So now, what we are trying to see, yeah, we want to just go with the insert, right? So what I'll do, I have already the schema. So I'll just take this particular schema, paste Excel on my desktop, where I'll try to just change my data, existing data, right? Simply I'll just utilize UiPath one. It's like RPA. Cities, that's right. Right. So yeah, path the two, two, yes, right. Same data, I'll just try to expand here, maybe for some bulk data, maybe some 20 rows of data. Right, we have this data. I want to just update this data into a particular database. You have your data in Excel and you want to just dump this particular data into your database. How you can do that? Right. So we have connected database, which will be helping us. So we have, let's search for something called database. We have something called insert. So if you just hover on the insert activity, it will just say like inserts a compatible data table into existing database table, right? So we'll just use an insert command. So before that, I just need to read the data, right? So where is your data? My data was there in Excel. So what I'll do, I'll simply use the read range workbook activity to read the data from an Excel. So read range properties. I just want to go with the reading the data which is there on the Excel desktop DB export, right? So what is the sheet name? I think it's DB test something. So we have something called DB test, right? This is my sheet name. So DB test, right? So once you read the data, you want to store that particular data in a data table. So I'll just say like you would try to just keep it in something called the database, right? So in the range, you can just leave it empty, or else you can just go with the double quotes where it will try to read all the rows in the Excel. So we just need to make sure that we are inserting the data. We have already existing connection, which is basically called DB Connect. Okay. And into which data table you want to export. So my data table is basically DT database. Okay. So what is the target table name? So we have already know that it's basically called test one. So to test one database table, I just want to extract. I'm like import the data, right? So affected count, I'll just utilize existing variable in records count. So it should be showing around like 19 or 20 records got uploaded into my particular thing. So I'll just utilize this run query to just see how many records got successfully updated. And basically I'm trying to disconnect from the database, right? So simply we're just trying to read, connect to database, trying to say that, hey, I already have my data in a data table called DT database, and I want to insert in a table called table one with the existing database connection. So and see, we are just trying to see how many records got updated by this using the outcome of insert command. And finally, it's a best practice to disconnect from the database. We're just trying to disconnect from the database, right? So that is our agenda here to just import the data from Excel to database. Right. Let's try to run the file. So we have only 5 records here. It has affected 19 records. Nothing but 19 records got updated. If you can see, it was still 5 records. If I just run this query again, so you can see that the values got updated here, right? So from your path 1 to your path 19, all the values got updated. Right. So this is how you can just try to connect to database, try to export the data from Excel to database to Excel. You can utilize run query, run command. Run query is basically to utilize a select command, and run command was basically um, utilized for insert, update, and delete things, right? So when you are trying to export, you will try to utilize the writers because after exporting the data from Excel, sorry, database, your data will be there in data table. But when you want to import, you need to make sure that you are trying to pass the data table for inserting your data, right? So that is our agenda today to just discuss at a high level how you can connect with a uh, particular database and how you can just do this. So link query versus SQL query. Are there any difference to fetch or filtering the data? See, SQL query is to so, so SQL is nothing but it is something a language which will help us to uh, understand something how your database things works for us. Like how you speak in English, like you're trying to communicate, right? So the same way, like SQL is something, a language which will help us in communicating with the database. So link queries are nothing but it will try to just help us for the data analytics part, like where you can just do lots of actions, where you can filter, where you can just try to take only like top 10 rows, like bottom 10 rows, or you can just do lots of functions out of it. So please share the doc if you have used the perform actions on database. Right, as we discussed, if you have multiple 1 lakh rows of data, so like practically it won't be stored in real time because like you want to make your file as light as possible. So you'll directly utilize database to just store all this data. But if you still want to do, you can write a simple uh, a link query to just take only top 10,000 records in each iteration. So in the for each, you will try to say like, I just want to read only top 10,000 rows. Like you try it for 10 times and where you can get all your 10, oh, sorry, 1 lakh rows of data. So that's all for today. We'll connect again tomorrow with another interesting topic related to email automations, where we'll try to utilize some SMTP or IMAP protocols to just send some mails or receive some mails. I have 40 bots in production and I want to update some records on a single Excel data table. How can we do that same time using all bots? I have 40 bots in production. Okay. And I want to update some records on a single Excel data table. But you need to just try to make sure that you're connecting with all the uh, 40 bots. 1 minute, sorry. I think I have this mistaken. I have 40 bots in production. I want to update some records on a single Excel data table. How can we do that? Okay, fine. So let's say that you are trying to have a multi-bot architecture here. So multi-bot architecture is utilized when you want to um, say like what I can say, you are running multiple transactions on multiple missions. So you have in the queue like 100 records, and you want to just try to make sure that after each transaction, you want to update that in a single Excel file, right? So you can do that. There are multiple approaches we can just follow. So one approach we just follow is to see if we are running the last transaction in the queue and all, right? So if you know that in after writing the last transaction, you can update all your data table into single Excel file, right? So if you're not using this particular approach, if you try to write, what happens is it will say that when you're trying to write the data, it will try to say that already the Excel file is in use by some other, or it's like busy and all. So you can just follow this particular approach. Can I use Excel as database and run the regular? Yes, you can do that. So we'll just share some video for that particular, like how you can use Excel as database and run the regular. Once you're connecting, like considering Excel as database, where you will again run these SQL queries too. Any other queries? Last but not least, I'll just share the link again. If possible, just uh, attend the challenge one, nothing but the quiz to just test your knowledge and write a small feedback on that. Fine. So difference between query and command, it's both the same. So can we connect after this session for post SQL connection? Yes, please share the screenshots with us. We will help you in doing that. Deadline to complete challenge one, it's 24th. Tomorrow is the uh, last day for submitting your day one challenge. I'm like first challenge. Akshay, please share the screenshots. We'll try to just see. We have classes till 28th without any break. 25th is not a holiday. We have classes. So it's nothing but if it's a holiday, if it is something for us where we have some free time where we can just uh, spend some time. If it is not a holiday, it's something like in a busy schedule, we are just trying to take some time and dedicate to these particular sessions. Anyways, you'll have the recordings where you can just have a
Hello,
walk
Sai.
through
Good
this.
morning. Can you give me permission to share screen if possible?
Buddy, we are just running out of time. We have some different schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, just share the screenshots and where we can help you out.
Okay, we'll try.
Yeah, sure. So how to convert data table into SQL query to insert into database. So basically, like you are trying to read the data from Excel, right? Where you have the data in data table, and that data table you're trying to insert into database. Okay. Any other queries? Okay, then fine. I think uh, it's for us to just wind up as of today. Yeah. Thank you. Have a great day. Akshay, please share the screenshots. Maybe later today we'll just try to go with the things. Yeah.
Yeah, please
Thank
share
you. Have a great day.
screenshot.
Yeah.